On the agenda tonight, we're going to be taking a look at Bobby Hatfield performing Unchained Melody live. Hello, Phil here from Wings of Pegasus and welcome to another analysis video. If you enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. So, this request has come in to take a look at Bobby's voice through the pitch monitoring software, but also the isolated vocal. And if you have been watching this channel for a while, don't worry, you haven't gone mad. We did look at this video a few years ago now, but not in this way. The other thing that we can have a look at are the ranges, which are there. So we can use that as a reference point because Bobby covers some serious range in this performance, but we will dive into it as always. There's going to be a link in the description below. If you want to watch the original performance without the isolated vocal and just enjoy that, click on the link, and I will be interrupting this performance as well. So click on that link to watch it without me interrupting it. Let's get into it.
Oh, my love, I've hungered for your touch a long, lonely time, and time goes by so slowly, and time can do so much. Are you still mine? I need your love. I need your love.
I'm just going to jump in here. There is so much that we can mention about this performance. I mean, just to mention that it's live, that he's got this kind of ability. The first thing I want to mention is just mic technique. The way that Bobby, when he connects his vocal cords and leans into it a little bit more, he'll just move that mic away from his mouth and bring it closer for the softer phrases. And it just means you get that really even output from his voice. It's so nice to listen to anyway, but he just balances that so we don't get any peaks happening and certain phrases pop out only when he means them to, rather than it being a volume issue or a dynamics issue. Talking about dynamics, the thing about his delivery here, there is so much going on from a dynamic perspective. I'm just going to play the video a little bit because it's in every single phrase.
I need your love.
So even there, when we take it back, we've got this high, and he kind of leans into the sound, but then takes his foot off the accelerator and then leans into it. So we get that high, and it's almost like breathing. Have a listen to it again. To the point where the note almost disappears, but it doesn't. And he does actually start with quite a connected sound with the you know, it's quite closed vocal cord connection wise, but it's just throughout the performance. He's doing this all the time, and it just makes it so interesting to listen to because he's not going yeah, and just hitting it all at one level. He draws you in by and you kind of lean in to go, oh, where's the note gone? But it's still there. It is effectively just making you lean in to hear what's going on, but it's all intentional. He's bringing you into the performance. Something that I want to mention about the physical performance here, we haven't got any bells and whistles going on here. It's just all about the vocal. But Bobby, when he sings, and I don't think this is my imagination, he moves his jaw sometimes from left to right, but have a look at this.
Goes by so slowly.
There, especially on slowly, you can just see his jaw move from side to side. And you think, well, why is that important? It's important because many vocal coaches will say, if you're struggling to hit notes or you're just singing incorrectly with too much strain, using too many muscles that you shouldn't be around your neck and your throat, they'll say loosen your jaw, move it from side to side so that it's not fixed in place. It's just hanging there, and you can move it from side to side, and you can do that now even without singing, to feel how relaxed that is. And when Bobby's doing that, now everyone will just start doing it, but when Bobby's doing that, it shows that he is so relaxed when he's singing that his jaw's got all the freedom there. There's no tension. So this is just a physical manifestation, this movement of the jaw, of having a perfectly relaxed voice, a lack of strain, and this is something that will become evident in this performance, but just with Bobby's voice in general. But when we have a look on the right-hand side of the screen at the pitch graph, we can see that Bobby is really accurate pitch-wise. Of course, we can hear that. And if we just take it back a little bit, you can see there on the G, it's right at the top of the screen, so you might not be able to see it. But, I mean, he's bang on there. Interestingly, Bobby's vibrato is not that consistent. When we compare it with other singers that we've been looking at with the pitch monitoring software, here it's got a really nice vibrato and nice and even, and we've got 2 semitones worth going on there. As we take it back a little bit here, we've got a little wobble here, so it's a bit tighter now vibrato wise. Here, even tighter, if not, that's pretty much going to be a straight note being held. But coming back, again, a tighter vibrato here, maybe a semitone. So we haven't got this really consistent bang-on vibrato all the time, which is interesting because it certainly doesn't sound like that to the ear. It does sound really consistent. But the thing about Bobby's voice, when we're looking at his voice as a line, is just the amount of sliding that we do from note to note. And I'll just have a little, I mean, this is a great example here. Look at the way that we're sliding from the G3 all the way up to past the D sharp, the E, and we're sliding back down again. And I'm sure all of these would be joined, these lines, if the pitch monitoring software had a really clear input to the voice, because it's just the microphone picking up his voice from speakers. But if it was plugged in, unfortunately it doesn't work that way, but if it was plugged in, these would all be connected, but we can see them connected here. So look at the amount of sliding. So it's almost like there's a constant noise going on, but this noise, I mean, it's a great tone of noise, and this noise is picking out notes just with perfect tuning. I mean, it sounds pitch perfect. We can see that obviously with 440 hertz tuning, he is slightly flat, and slightly flat. He's not going to be hitting the lines dead on, but he does occasionally, like here. So he's got that kind of accuracy pitch wise, but he's just spending a lot of time sliding, but where he needs to, he's just touching these lines all the time. We'll have a listen to this part of the song. Of course, it's just going to be the melody that we all know and love, so you don't necessarily notice all of the sliding because you're so used to the melody. But let's have a listen.
Goes by so slowly, and time can do.
And even there, that and time can do. So he's actually picking out can do. He's picking out the D4, which is slightly sharp off here on the pitch monitoring software, but it's so cool the way that he does that, because it doesn't sound contrived, it's so natural, but technically it's really impressive, because I'm sure that 99.9% of people who sing this go can do, and go straight up, maybe a little bit of do before hitting that. They don't go can do and go to the D4 first. So it's these things that they really do stick out when you're looking at Bobby's voice as a line on the screen. But let's jump back into it.
Lonely rivers flow to the sea, to the sea, to the open arms of the sea. Yeah. Lonely rivers sigh, wait for me, wait for me. I'll be coming home wait for me. Oh, my love, my darling, I've hungered for your touch, long, lonely time.
I'm just going to jump in here because interestingly there on the G, let me just take that back a little bit. It sounds like he doesn't quite hit that in chest voice. So we'll take it back and have another listen to it. So what's happening here is Bobby is taking his voice up in chest voice up to the A, which will be, it'll be up there. So that's, I mean, I'm doing it in a light head voice, but he's accessing this in his chest voice. So it's way up there in the male tenor range, the last note of it, technically.
I've hungered for your touch.
And then he comes back down again, and goes back up to the G. So it's still a tone off the A. This is the thing about vocal ranges, is they all stop at a particular point. So you can hear when they change sometimes, and this is what Bobby was so good at, changing his vocal registers and ascending in range and making it evident that he was doing it, but still making it smooth. But, I mean, we'll get to that in a second. We'll just play it from here.
Long, lonely time. And time goes by so slowly, and time can do so much for you. Still more.
I'm just going to jump in here because that is exactly what I'm talking about, where we've got this change as we come back. We can see that G4 again. You know, Bobby's hitting that in a kind of mixed voice sound. He's not keeping it really belty in chest voice, but he's still controlling that note, and that's still a tone underneath the A4 that we had previously, where he just tried to take his chest voice up to. He's now going to flip up into his head voice. Have a listen. And, I mean, when he flips up there, it just sounds like he's got limitless range. He just allows that. It's almost like a vocal break, but it's not. It is smooth. It's not as abrupt as you would have when you're trying to learn to eradicate the break in your voice from one register to the next. He just smoothly glides through that section of his voice that's his chest voice into a mixed voice into a head voice, and he makes it quite deliberate. But then when he comes back down into his chest voice, it's gonna be the third note in the sequence, which is like an aeroplane coming down to land, and it's a little bit heavy with the landing because he's taking a very light sound of head voice, because to ascend in range, especially up to these kind of heights, you need to have a lighter sound and a lighter vocal cord configuration to get up that high. But then as you descend back into chest voice is a lot more connected, a heavier sound, a heavier voice. So that's why when somebody's belting in chest voice a high note, it's going to sound a lot more dramatic than somebody who's having a light head voice sound. So this is it. It's just a heavier register. The chest. And you might be able to hear it. It's a little bit abrupt, but I mean, it still sounds great. He's going all the way up from this E5 crazy range. We're talking countertenor range here, and coming down all the way to the G4. So again, one hell of a drop, but he just had the ability to do this.
I really need no love.
And you can hear now we're properly back down into chest.
God speed your love to me.
And there we have it. I mean, that is just ridiculous. The range going all the way up to the A5, was it? It was a G5? Oh, let me have a look. It was the G5, yes. So let's just take it back. And when I said about him having seemingly limitless range as he ascends, there's your example of it, because he is so relaxed, just releasing, and it sounds like a head voice. It doesn't sound like falsetto, because falsetto has a lot of air in the sound, and I know that the isolated vocal at that point isn't quite as clearly picked up, but it just sounds like such a clean note. So yeah, it was a G5, but it was sharp of the G5, so he was actually going even higher than he needed to. So just bringing this all back to the foundational question of range and looking at the notes that we've got on the piano here, we are as low as a D3, I think, in the verse. So having a look down here, this is our D3, and we just know that we've heard a G5, actually just sharp of a G5, but not as far as the G sharp 5. So as we ascend all the way, we get to here, and we are slightly sharp of the G5. So just looking at the range, I mean, we've got, you know, the majority of the piano here going on with Bobby's range. And if you've watched any of these vocal analysis videos on the channel before, you'll know how rare it is to be looking at a video where we've got this kind of range going on. It is absolutely crazy, because when we're going from the D3, if we're taking this up an octave, which is going to be up to here, that would already be really impressive from a vocal standpoint, taking a verse to a chorus just up an octave. But then going all the way up to another octave, I mean, that's pretty much unheard of when you're talking about mainstream songs and singers, especially of the current generation. But even in, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, you very rarely got a singer who would be hitting a couple of octaves with their voice, range-wise, especially guys. But then we're going all the way up beyond 2 octaves in a performance. So it's just so impressive from the standpoint of being so controlled. It's not strained, it's not pushed. He's not trying to hit notes here that are outside of his range, and he could maybe do it in the studio once in a blue moon and they happen to get it on the record. He's just doing this, and he can perform it probably even better than the record live, because he could just take his voice seemingly wherever he wanted to take it. Anyway, thank you guys so much for requesting a relook at this video with the pitch monitoring software. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Keep those requests coming in the comment section below, and if you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll see you guys at the next one. Rock!